in terms of this mental health part, I mean, we know that there's a huge incidence of anxiety, depression, loneliness, and certainly we see it in kids living in poverty. We see it just as dramatically in affluent kids. And the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation a couple of years ago published this paper looking at the causes of these mental health problems in teenagers and young adults. And they concluded the main problems were poverty, trauma, discrimination, and excessive pressure to excel. And so we think that this mental health situation, it's unprecedented levels of mental health problems. And it gets worse in college. A lot of parents ask us, does it get better when they go off to college? And it doesn't, actually it gets worse. Now, here's the connection with the sense of control. That every place that we look to try to understand how kids develop that healthy self-motivation, all the arrows point in the direction of autonomy. And Ned's going to talk about motivation in a couple of minutes. In terms of the mental health piece, we know that there's a neuroscientist in Montreal who says, here's the 4 things that make life stressful. And she summarizes them with the novelty nuts. It's novelty, unpredictability, perceived threat, and a low sense of control. But the S is the sense of control. So nuts, stress makes you nuts. And so, and it's that low sense of control that's the most stressful thing. And we know that when you're anxious or when your thinking is out of control, if you're depressed, you have no sense of control, you can't get out of bed. And so we know that there's a strong connection between a sense of control and mental health. And one of the guys who put this sense of control on the map, Steve Mayer, who was a scientist at University of Colorado, basic experiment where he has rats in a cage, rat A, rat B, they're in a plexiglass cage, the tail's outside the cage, little wheel inside the cage. Rat A, tail gets shocked, wants the shock to stop, turns the wheel. And he learns that he turns the wheel. He learns that if he turns the wheel, the shock stops. He has this experience several times, and when he's turning the wheel, his prefrontal cortex activates and dampens down the stress response, and he goes into coping mode. And after a while, you can't stress this rat. Even if you disconnect the wheel, you can't stress him because he's learned, I can control stressful situations. Rat B, tail gets shocked, turns the wheel, nothing happens. Rat B becomes a nervous wreck who's constantly stressed because he didn't have that sense of control, that sense that I can control stressful situations. And Mayer says, and so many people in psychology support this idea, that sense of control inoculates you from the harmful effects of stress.